Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Concussion Nerds podcast. And today we are joined by special guest Amy Taylor. Hi, Amy.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Amy is with Jane, and she's actually their manual therapy advocate, which we will explain what that means later on in the show. But Jane is a company that I'm an ambassador for. So, for any clinicians listening to this podcast, it is my EMR client management system. Okay. It's where I do all my billing, all my invoicing, all my client information, all my charting, all my surveys, all my outcome measures. It is all done through Jane. If you are a client listening to this email, it is the system that sends you your appointment reminders, that sends you your questionnaires, that you can do my online booking with, right? So it is an integral piece, I feel, of running a clinical practice of any size at all. I had Jane when I was a single practitioner, when it was just me. And now with a team of 14 people, Jane still is the hub of what we do. So, Jane, I still love that it's Jane. And Amy's going to explain to us why the name Jane
Oh, yes,
coming up
absolutely.
shortly. But Jane is also a sponsor, a gold level sponsor for the upcoming Concussion Nerd Summit. And so, what we're going to talk about in more detail, because Amy's role, I think, highlights this in such a beautiful way, is how invested in their community Jane is. From every single person that uses this software from day one. Like, I've been with Jane. Allison and I meant to actually pull up my Jane number one day, Amy, to see, because like I joined Jane. So Allison, for those that don't know, is the CEO of Jane, founder. I don't know what her actual title is.
Co-CEO.
Co-CEO of Jane.
Yep.
I joined Jane when Allison was still doing the sales calls because Allison did my sales call. So I have been with this company now for years, like at probably 9. Like, I joined Jane really shortly after I opened my clinic. I have never been disappointed. They continue to surprise me and create things that I never would have thought of being created that then benefit my practice in a beautiful way. And so I am honored that they are a sponsor for the summit. They've been a sponsor on this podcast before because they just believe so much in supporting their community. So, Amy, thank you for being here as a representative for this amazing company today.
Oh, awesome. I am so glad to be here. It is so cool to find out you've been with Jane for like about 9 years because we actually just turned 10. So you're not kidding when you say you were in like basically ground level for sure. But I am so glad to be here and to be able to talk about Jane with you.
Amazing. So I think today, and I'm kind of that person that I love knowing the roots of a company. I love the connection and the interaction and building a relationship with a company. And so I would love for people to understand a little bit about Jane's roots. How did it
Yeah.
start? Where did it come from? And I know that you can shed some light for us on this topic. So please take it away.
Awesome. Well, you had mentioned Allie or Allison. Allie is the co-founder along with Trevor. And Jane actually came about. So Allie wanted to open a multidisciplinary practice in North Vancouver, BC. And when she was looking for basically EMR systems or practice management systems, she quickly realized that if she had a multidisciplinary practice, every single person would have to have their own type of software, or online booking would be piecemeal. Like, some offered online booking and some didn't. And she went to Trevor, who had his own company at the time, and he was actually designing her website. And they ended up basically just building in what is now Jane as a bespoke thing in the back of her website for Canopy, which was her clinic in North Vancouver. So they basically built the functionality in, the ability to be able to take notes and schedule for a multidisciplinary practice, and the ability for them to be able to book online in a multidisciplinary practice. It was all pretty cutting edge. People started reaching out and saying, "What are you using?" And they quickly realized that they actually had something in the functionality they created. And that's how Jane was born.
That's cool. It's always one of those things. It's like she did it because she had a need for herself, and then it was very quickly to realize the need elsewhere. And
Yeah.
so Jane started with Allie and Trevor's team.
Mhm.
And today, how big is Jane?
All right, so started with 2 people, we are now over 500. So it's done a lot of growing in its 10 years. And we have, our support team, which is one of the largest organizations. And it's key to note that, like support is probably one of the coolest things. I mean, I may be a little biased. I am a member of the support team,
Okay.
even though so even though I am the manual therapy advocate, I started in support and my advocacy role basically grew out of my passion for our manual therapy clinics in Jane through the support side of things, talking to our clinics every day and all of that wonderful stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. And I also love to Jane has full on embraced like Jane's based out of North Vancouver in British Columbia, and they have a beautiful office. Oh my goodness. Like I got to spend time there last year. So as a
Mhm.
Jane ambassador, we had an ambassador day weekend really, and they spoiled us. And we got to spend time at their headquarters and it's beautiful. However, they have embraced remote work
Mhm.
because your team is not Vancouver, your team is spread all over.
We are everywhere. We are coast to coast, and we are also in the US. We've actually brought on some people employed directly from the US as US specialists. Our team is sort of divided into Canadian support and US support, but that's pretty much the only division. Other than that, we, especially in the support space, are excited to kind of support everyone at Jane and help them
Mhm.
out. But yeah, we are everywhere. I'm in Alberta, actually. So,
There we go. I love it. Your role. So you mentioned your title. So you're the manual therapy advocate.
mhm.
And so I was saying when I was speaking with Lauren that I was like, does that mean you only like work with manual therapists? And we've like, no. What is your role, Amy? What do you do?
Great question. So, my role basically encompasses sort of more of the manual therapy style clinics. So, that's physical therapy or physiotherapy. It is chiropractic. My umbrella kind of, you know, hovers over things like acupuncture and that type of thing as well. Basically, massage therapy also included in that. So,
Mhm.
basically, a lot of those sort of manual therapy type clinicians or practitioners, who have a lot of the same sort of scheduling needs and that type of thing. So, my role basically is to be that bridge between our customer support team, who are frontline. So, they're hearing your stories all the time and listening to your questions and hearing your feature requests. And then they're bringing that information back to us. And I sort of help facilitate those requests. And I actually have conversations with people in the community. I go to a lot of conferences and all that wonderful stuff. And I try to figure out, where can Jane be better for a
Mm.
specific community? So mine is manual therapy. We also have an aesthetics advocate and mental health advocate. So Jane is really trying to understand, as multidisciplinary as we are, we also want to make sure that we're really serving the specific disciplines that use us as well. And that's one of the key things that I think I love the most about the role, because it really has that community piece. I can take that information and then I get to take that to our product team and I get to champion some of those feature requests and basically give them updates on trends in the industry and things that are happening and things that people are asking for, so we can continue
Mhm.
to make Jane better and better.
I love that. I think one of the things I love about Jane so much is how much they honor, respect, and want and put effort into building that relationship with their community. And I think what I love is it would be so easy for a company like Jane, who at this point, with the number of clinics, practitioners, clinicians as a whole that use Jane, it is in the multiple thousands. I
Hmm.
mean, we could safely say, I would think that it would be in like the five figures
Hmm.
of the number of practitioners that use Jane, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so for a company of that size, it would be so easy for them to just do their thing because their systems work and not engage in us. But what I've actually seen, and how long have you been with Jane, Amy?
So I've been with Jane about 2 years.
Okay. So I feel like you can back me on this one. But what I actually feel like I've seen happen is the exact opposite, that the bigger Jane has got, the more effort they have actually put in to find ways to connect with their community. Yeah, would you agree?
Absolutely. I would 100% agree with that. Like, I mean, I know, like, so Jane does not have a sales team. I think that's one of those key things.
Mm,
And the reason why I say that is because when you phone and you're talking with someone in support, that person is also the same person that you might meet at a conference. And that community connection, that idea that as Jane has grown, we have not lost that connection between the support team and the people that pick up the phone to help answer questions and the community and the
mhm.
ability for us to get out there and really hear and listen to what the community is asking for when it comes to, like we love hearing what we do really well, but we also love hearing when we don't do things really well. And we love to be able to take that back to our team and see if we can really, improve or make changes. And I think that I know it has been a goal of Ali and Trevor to make sure that as we've gotten bigger, that we haven't lost that instead of out stepping away from being very involved in the community, that we're, like you mentioned, really trying. Now we go to more conferences and we're
Mhm.
sending more of our really talented support people to conferences to talk to people. And we do that because it's important to be seen in the community. And we want to know that, I mean, we are help the helpers. That is our mission. And that is like so dear to us. And we want to make sure that comes across in how we interact in our community.
I'm gonna pause you a second. You went by it super fast. What is the mission?
The mission is to help the helpers.
I love that because we need help too.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you didn't go to school to learn
No,
scheduling or to chart.
you you
That's
should have
not
seen
your
me
goal.
literally all day. I literally spent 30 minutes this morning time blocking my calendar for the month of August so I can get all my stuff done. Like, who is it?
Mhm.
Can you talk to me about and share with our audience some of the other ways? So obviously Jane has an amazing support team. They have a Facebook community that you don't have
Mhm.
to be a Jane user to be part of, by the way.
That's correct.
Could you share, because they have so many different initiatives, I know there's some other exciting ones coming up. How else is Jane giving back or incorporating the community?
Great questions. So, definitely, we do a lot of sponsorships. And I had mentioned before we do conferences, and generally, we show up at those conferences that we do sponsor. Sometimes, even if we're the only people there, we tend to be the ones that are like front and center. We're excited, genuinely excited to support the people in our community. And, even people who don't use Jane, we've been to conferences led by people who are not Jane users, but they've heard about us and they want to learn more. So, we show up. We also do webinars. So for people who are, looking for more information or they want to learn a little bit more about Jane, we're doing webinars that you can either actively join or get recordings of afterwards. You mentioned the Facebook community. We actually also have some live events that have taken place and we're working on doing more of those. So we just really try to be present and front and center and really try to be present in the community and delightful in the community.
So I'm going to add a few more.
Yes,
So
please.
not only does Jane do webinars to teach you about Jane, but if you follow Jane on Instagram, so it'll be their Instagram will be at the end of this podcast. Go follow them, regardless of if you use them or not. And the reason I say this is because Jane is filled with a plethora of clinicians who are similar to myself, who have huge passions in areas. And our dream and our goal is to educate and help spread awareness and education. Jane supports us, and I mean clinicians as a whole, by and it's once a month they do a what's going on in the Jane's community post. And it's a carousel post that goes up on their Instagram and it highlights different webinars or master classes or events or things that clinicians who are part of the Jane community are putting on, and they just share that with you. So whether you use Jane or not, you can learn from people within the Jane community because Jane supports us in helping get our words and our passions out,
Absolutely. The
right?
ambassador program is such a key and incredible part of Jane. And I've had the opportunity to meet a few ambassadors now and absolutely humbled by your passion and drive, to get your message across. And I love the fact that Jane supports that.
Yeah, and I think that would even be a secondary piece of that. That another piece too is like the ambassador when they started their program, it was kind of a no-brainer for me because I just love to share everything that work that I love. And Jane's one of
Hmm.
those things that I love. So I'm like, here you go. So there is the ambassador program, which now I think Lauren was saying there's like was it 100 or 200 ambassadors now? Like,
Mhm.
there's a good number of us, and it started with like a handful of us.
Mm.
I always say, like, I'm an OG of that too.
Yes,
And
you
then
are.
the other thing that Jane has is their front desk magazine now, right?
Mhm.
So is it a quarterly publication, Amy?
Great question. So it started out, our first ever one was just sort of a out there to see if people responded to it. And then a few months later, our second one came out. So we're not consistently quarterly yet, but that's what we're working towards.
Okay.
But you are able to go on and sign up to get it. You can get a beautiful physical copy
It's
of the
gorgeous.
magazine. You can also go and get an online version of it as well. But we have two out right now and a third one on the way.
Oh, yeah. It's the community contributing to that issue. Like, it's the support team and the development team and the product team, all the teams that contribute to the issue. It's amazing. And so I really do want to give Jane a huge shout out, because at the size that this company is now, it would be so easy to not do what they're doing. But as they've grown, I've truly, and I tend to be that ambassador that watches a little bit from the sidelines and then jumps in once in a while. Full disclosure. Really
Fair.
knows it. Uh, but I need to give them a shout out and a props, because the bigger they've grown, I've watched them time and time again invest more effort to connecting with their community. And I think they understand that probably better than almost any other company I have worked with.
I feel genuinely that, one of the reasons why I chose to work with Jane, my first actual experience with Jane was as a patient. My massage therapist uses Jane.
Great.
And yeah, and
I'm
as I
loving
was
this. I
like,
want to hear your journey.
right? As I was sitting there filling out all my forms, I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't have to sit in a room with a clipboard and a pen and fill out this stuff for 15 minutes before I was able to get it all done. And I was like, this is so cool. And being the kind of tech nerd that I am, I scrolled down to the bottom to see if it was powered by anyone, and it was powered by Jane.
Oh my God, you're
And
the only person I know that would actually do that, by the way.
100%.
Love
You
it.
know what? I'm the only person anybody knows. I'm gonna tell you.
That's amazing.
I
Well,
clicked on.
I will say this. Do you know how I found a clinic once? Is I was literally watching this promo video and I was like, where? Because it didn't mention the clinic anywhere. And I was like,
Mhm.
where is this clinic? I want to go shadow them. I watched the video again in slow motion to see if it and found the one spot where it slow panned past the clinic door and I could see the clinic name to Google it. So I get you, just in a
I
different
was
way.
gonna say, that you do sound like someone who would click on the powered by. But I went and I looked up Jane, and I was so taken by their, just their passion, and like the idea of help the helpers, and
Mhm.
they're not just their missions and goals, but the things that really matter to them. Like, the Jane is an amazing place to work. I can tell you that 100%. And I think that also relates into how, like, we are happy, passionate people that work at Jane, and that relates into how we communicate with our community and our practitioners. And we are genuinely invested, and Jane is genuinely invested in you and in us. And when I made the decision to make a change in career, Jane was my go to. And I'm so
I love it.
glad that I was able to do that. It's been a phenomenal 2 years working for Jane. And I'm just so glad that I get the opportunity to have these conversations, to be out in the community and hear stories, amazing stories.
I love it. Amy, thank you for joining us today and being such an amazing, heartfelt representation of Jane.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been genuine pleasure.
Yeah. So, for those of you listening, if you are a clinician, if you're interested to learn more about Jane, there is a promo link below this episode. It gives you 1 free month to experience and work with Jane. Their client services team or their customer support team is amazing. There's a phone number on their website. Phone them and ask them the questions, right? Their website is full of videos. Definitely check it out. If you have a question about Jane, send me a message on Instagram. I will happily answer it for you too. And that is not a problem whatsoever. Thank you to Jane as a whole for being a gold level sponsor for the upcoming Concussion Nerds Virtual Summit. It is such an honor and a gift. And so thank you so much. And so, Amy, I'm going to thank you as the Jane rep today for that. Thank you.
Thank you for doing everything you do within your community. It's incredible. And we know Jane loves to support people like you. And I'm so glad we were able to.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me. Message me on Instagram at natasha.wilch. If you have not already registered for the virtual summit, it is September 21st and 22nd, and you are going to be blown away by both our live workshops we're hosting and our pre-recorded speakers for both clinicians and individuals on a healing journey. Until next week, my friends, we will see you soon. That's today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, give us a like, give us a share, give us a tag on Instagram, and please never hesitate to reach out. We love communicating and connecting with you. Until next week, my friends, have a marvelous day.